Everyone. My name is Andrew Schneider. I'm the Director of Operations here with the Wyoming Arts Alliance. We appreciate everyone for tuning in to Facebook Live, and of course, to those of you joining us here on Zoom today. We have a really wonderful panel of people from across the state who are going to speak about a really important topic, which is how to engage with local leaders. And throughout our interim advocacy day today, we'll be having some information about who is running for office this fall. We'll have a workshop about how to reach out through a letter to those folks running at the legislature. And then we'll have some interim updates as well. But we wanted to kick things off with a little lunch and learn here. And amongst our many prestigious guests, we have the Executive Director of the Wyoming Arts Council here today, Mr. Michael Lang. And as often is our tradition at the Arts Alliance, we love to have Michael just share some comments and kick us off with his thoughts. So without further ado, before we jump into our panel, Michael, take it away.
Great, thanks so much, Andrew, and thanks for giving me just a couple minutes to say hello, and thank you to everyone. It's great to have a group joining for the Interim Advocacy Day today, and I wanted to quickly just say thanks to all of the folks who are going to serve on the panel this afternoon. Some of my favorite artists and people from around the state, so thanks for taking the time to join today. And I also just wanted to take a moment and say thank you to the Wyoming Arts Alliance Board of Directors, as well as Andrew for their hard work putting this together and for all they do to support the arts across the state of Wyoming. So thanks so much for a moment, Andrew, and I look forward to hearing all the wonderful things the panelists have to say today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Michael, for being here, and thanks for all the hard work that you and the team at the Arts Council do to give us things to advocate for. It's a wonderful partnership here. I also want to acknowledge we have a couple of WyAA board members. We've got Bruce Richardson, and if you want to give us a wave, Bruce. We also have from our board, Wendy Bredehoff, although I don't see her on camera, but if you want to come off and give us a wave, Wendy. We're glad to have our legislative consultant, Aaron Taylor, here with us today, as well as our summer community engagement intern, Kelby Eisenman. I'll give us a little wave. So that's some of the team here. And the panel today consists of local leaders from BOCES on up. And if you don't know what BOCES is, you're probably not alone here in Wyoming. So we'll be learning more about that together. Of course, you're familiar with school boards. We have representation here from school board, from city council, and from county commission. So I thought a great way to get to meet our panelists would be just to ask them to speak about their background, how they got into local leadership, and do a round robin round that way before we get into the topic about engaging local leaders. So I'm going to try to follow the order that we had here by starting with Bernadine Kraft. If you're ready, Bernadine, to come off mute and kick us off, welcome.
Oh, well, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm thrilled to be able to be here. And I was told I could have 3 minutes for introduction. So I have my timer right here because I can tend to talk for 20 minutes and all you'd hear about is my introduction, which is not the point. But it is exciting to always talk about things you're passionate about. And I've been passionate about the arts my entire life. So when Andrew said, talk a little bit and introduce about local leadership and leadership in the arts, I started trying to think about when I first became a leader in the arts. And I think I was about 12 And I had to help my father with the Community Concert Association, which is a 90-year-old organization that's still going in Sweetwater County. We've had two treasurers, and that was 90 years, my father and now me. So that's kind of how I started out, was as a very young child, learning the importance of the arts. Started college with a piano performance major, decided piano performance majors didn't eat very well. So I changed my major to something far more practical, theater. So my undergraduate and graduate degree is I have one in theater and one in speech. But my actual background is psychology. And right now, my current position, and has been since 2004, is as the executive director for Sweetwater BOCES. And Andrew's right, probably a lot of you have no clue what BOCES is, but I think we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get going, because BOCES is really a hidden gem in pretty much all of your communities. Unfortunately, Cheyenne is the only area that does not have a BOCES within the state. But we'll talk about that. That's where I really serve most of the arts now, because we're able to, our mission is to fund underserved programs, and there are no more underserved programs in Sweetwater County available than the arts programs. So we're able to do that, and we love that. I also spent 10 years in the Wyoming legislature, both in the House and in the Senate. And at all those times, I was a passionate advocate for the arts. And very often I was alone in that. I still remember going down to the House. And that was when the Hathaway scholarships were being kicked off. And my very first amendment ever passed on the floor of the House was to add a fine and performing arts requirement to the Hathaway Success curriculum. And it was hard to get through. Really hard to get through, because everybody was like, well, it's all just so nice. And isn't that sweet? But we don't need fluffy little add-ons. We're really sorry. And the arts, unfortunately, have been called fluffy little add-ons for a really long time. But I talked a lot about how the arts really impact how we learn, how we relate to the community, how they impact our entire lives. And it's not about, are you going to play the tuba when you're 40 years old? It's about, what did you learn and what do you bring to it? And the amendment went through when one of my very good friends got up and said, I happened to graduate with the good majority floor leader of the House. I played in the marching band and was in drama. He was not. Guess who had the higher grade point average? And she sat down, and that was it. So we've been advocating for the arts for a very long time. And I just plan to continue being that strong advocate well into the future. So thank you for including me today.
Well, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for joining us. And as we start to meet some of these Hathaway Scholar graduates coming out into the arts and culture workforce, we know that plan has just been tremendous for Wyoming and our communities. So thank you for that. I want to kick it off next to Brian Harrington, who serves as a Laramie City Council representative there in Ward 1, and who we know also is a small business owner and a celebrated photographer here in the Wyoming arts community. So Brian, if you're ready to take yourself off mute, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And just as maybe a note, Bernadine, I am a Hathaway recipient, and so thank you. So like Andrew said, my name is Brian Harrington. I'm a small business owner here in Laramie, an artist and a member of the city council. I first joined the council in 2018 and ran for re-election in 2020. And I'll hold that seat for another 2 years at this point, I suppose. I grew up in Grable, in a so small town. I guess this is all Wyoming folks, so most people probably know Grable. But I grew up in a family that really didn't provide a lot by way of sort of financial stability. And really, what we lacked in money, my parents made up for in spades with hard work and sort of just what I still don't quite understand, but it's kind of an unimaginable level of support for me and my siblings in pursuing whatever sort of creative endeavors we may want to give a shot to. And after several stopovers, I ended up in Laramie in 2010, and in 2011 I started my first business. And I was able to start that business because my parents gave me a really a small loan. I didn't know until later that they had refinanced their house, taken a second mortgage on their house to give me this loan. So I guess for them and for me, it was really fortunate that it worked out. And I still operate that photography studio today. 2 years ago, I guess it was in January of 2020. So before we all knew about COVID, or just it was sort of like a thought out there in the ether. One of my best friends and I started another business. It's called Western AF, and we do live offstage performance videos with country musicians all over the country. And that has become another significant creative outlet for me, and has really grown beyond sort of our wildest dreams. We're still running that from here in Laramie. And in a lot of ways, these successes that I found in my creative business part of life, they feel really inextricably tied to the support that I've received from the Laramie community, the Wyoming community, and some of the folks on this call, which is always pretty great. So when I decided to run for office, it was really with that in mind. It was trying to figure out how I could be of service to other folks that wanted to start these creative endeavors, how I could put myself in a position to make sure that was an equitable opportunity for really every person in Wyoming. And so here we are a few years into that, and I do feel pretty proud of some of the work we've done. I think another important piece that has significantly changed the way that I view just about everything in my life is in December of 2020, my wife and I welcomed our daughter Ruby, and she is just the most beautiful and busy child I have ever met. So she's not on this Zoom call, though Andrew mentioned earlier she could have been. She joins a significant amount of city council meetings and all sorts of Zoom events. So I suppose with that, I will just leave it with a thank you to the Arts Alliance for putting this all together and having me on such a cool panel. So thanks, everybody. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks for being here, Brian. So going from city council up to the next level, which is county commission, we have joining us today, Natalia Macker, who, as a theater kid myself, I love that in addition to being the chairwoman of the Teton County Board of County Commissioners, she works as the director of Off Square Theater Company, producing theater here in Wyoming. And as we were joking about before the session started, we pulled a deep cut from her educational bio here, but she does her bachelorette is cum laude from Yale University. So I don't know how many alums are here in Wyoming, but I think that's a great flex. So take it away, Natalia.
Thank you, Andrew. And I just want to say that you did get that correct. The county government is a step up from the city government in the constant battle between cities and counties when we are at the state legislature. So thank you. I won't let that leave this Zoom chat though. Yes, I'm Natalia Macker, and I'm the producing artistic director of Off Square Theater in Jackson. We are a small nonprofit professional theater. In the Tetons, we run kids after school programs, a youth musical, lots of summer camps, and then we produce professional theater in our black box in the Center Theater at the Center for the Arts. And then one of our signature programs is Thin Air Shakespeare, which is free outdoor Shakespeare every summer on the lawn here, adapted for Wyoming with a great group of artists. My journey is winding, and it is what it is. I grew up as a performing artist, first a dancer, and then started doing theater, pursued theater in my education at college, moved to Los Angeles to work in the entertainment industry, discovered that I didn't want to spend all my time in my car driving to auditions for small one-line parts on TV shows, and actually wanted to make art more and participate in that, and came to learn that producing was the job where you got to give yourself a job on stage, and also put all the pieces together and make a show come to life. And so merging those two with the fortunate help of some mentors in Los Angeles and a vacation to Wyoming, I found Oscar Theater Company 11 years ago and started working here as a summer camp instructor, and became an education director, and then became a producer on staff, and then the artistic director. And then when our longtime executive director retired last year, we merged the two roles into our now producing artistic director. And it is a great delight to get to mix my work at the theater and then work in local government. I ended up in local government by running for office for the state legislature in a district that would be challenging for me to win because of my political party affiliation, but did better than everyone thought I would do. And when there was a resignation on our county commission, 8 months later, I was appointed to the vacancy, and then I've run for re-election twice, in 2016 and in 2020. So you never know what's going to happen when you run for office. Even if you don't get the one you thought you wanted, you might end up where you were supposed to be. I love local government. There are a lot of similarities of work that we do in local government and putting on a show, and that you start with the germ of an idea, and then you got to get all the people together. You got to find the funding. You got to find the advocates for it, and then you do it, and then you end it, and then you move on to the next, which is kind of what we do in theater also. And so that part mixes those parts of my brain well. I also have really enjoyed being able to bring storytelling and communication to what we are doing in government that can, particularly at the local level, often just feel like paving roads and building bridges, but really finding the stories of the people whose lives we're impacting and elevating that as we try to get work done in the face of uphill challenges at times. And then, you know, in Wyoming, I ran for the legislature because I visited the legislature and didn't know where all the women were. I think it was after your time, Bernadine, and looked down and was surprised, and then complained about something, and then had a friend that was like, well, you should run for office. Like, that's a thing you can do in Wyoming. And so you're going to probably hear me tell everyone to run for office several times today. We need the best way to advocate for arts, from my perspective at times, is to become the decision maker that can make the decision to do the thing you want to have done. So love getting artists involved in local government, whether that's on committees and task forces, or just getting different types of thinkers engaged in what we're doing in the community.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, and for your work in performing arts and in community leadership up at the summit of the state there in Teton County. Last but certainly not least, Tom Myler is here with us. Tom serves as a trustee on the Natrona County School Board, which, I don't know, maybe pound for pound, Tom represents more individuals on the school board than our county commissioners do per capita if you divide it up here. So I don't know if that carries for other counties, but there's an interesting large constituency attached to many school boards across the state. Tom also works here at his alma mater at Casper College, where he coordinates the marketing and social media for, you know, as a Casper kid myself, I gotta say, one of the coolest colleges in the state. So thank you very much for joining us, Tom, and take it away.
Well, to start, I absolutely agree. Casper College is probably the best community college, but then again, I'm a little biased on that one. So yes, actually, even looking at the Natrona County School Board, we are the second largest school board within the state of Wyoming. We serve just under 13,000 students, and that's not including their parents and other groups that are involved with the Natrona County School District. But I was born and raised right here in Casper. Really haven't been here twice in my life, so a total like 5 years, where once I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints down in Mexico. Great 2 years. And then when I got my marketing degree down in Provo. And so now I'm back, thank goodness. I love being here in Casper. It's some of the best place. I feel kind of bad because apparently everyone else on this board has definitely a far more creative or arts background than I do. However, when I was here at Casper College, I was Kyle the UPS guy in Legally Blonde the musical. So I was the sex appeal for that show. So if anybody needs to go back and look, yeah, there you go. So I very much though do appreciate the arts. I understand the importance of it in all of our lives, activities, arts, whatever it might be. So that's not something I want to restrict that we do, especially even with my job currently. I mean, with social media, that's all about being creative. And that's even one thing that I do. It's called Tommy on Campus, which I kind of stole it from Billy on the Street, and where I basically play Tommy and go around questioning different people. So it's a lot of fun being able to understand, hey, people consume art all the time, whether they want to realize it or not, whether listening to music, watching a show, or going to live theater, whatever it might be. Arts has a huge impact on what we do. And so making sure that our kids have that opportunity to express themselves and to have some sort of outlet, because sports isn't for everyone, the STEM isn't for everyone, but arts definitely is for everyone.
Wonderful. I appreciate you being here and the creativity that you bring to the work that you're doing there, helping spread a culture that is supportive of the arts and education. So when we put this group together today, we were responding to WyAA's membership and some questions that have been arising in our community about some recent concerns. And I certainly don't want to dwell on the headlines of the past today. I really want us to stay inspired and thinking positively about connecting with our local leaders. But, I just want to set the tone of understanding that, folks have come to us with concerns about art being restricted in educational spaces, in other public spaces, about access to certain curriculums, certain literature, and effectively creative speech, if you want to think of it that way, being restricted in different places around the state. And the question that arose from that was really, how do we show up in these conversations at this local level so that when there's a question about whether that's arts access, whether that's specific content and community standards, whether that's economic and community development, or any of the issues that touch our lives every day, arts and culture folks are prepared to show up and know how to navigate that system. So that's by way of background how we got here today. And in our next round robin, before we sort of loosen things up for more Q&A and dialogue, I wanted each of the panelists just to speak a little bit about their the body that they serve on, and whether it's anecdotes or advice, their thoughts on what does and doesn't work for engaging at that level. So Bernadine, I think you also have to carry the water of explaining for some of us what a BOCES is and what it does, as sort of the undercover agency out there in this ecosystem.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I'll do my best to do that. I think I will just confine my time at this point to BOCES, because I can talk for hours about engaging the legislature, but other people can too, and so you know that. But BOCES is indeed a little hidden gem in your communities. It actually stands for Board of Cooperative Educational Services. It was created in 1988 by state statute, so we are statutorily created. Sweetwater BOCES, which I'm the executive director of, is the original BOCES, simply because the original BOCES legislation was carried by a gentleman named Frank Prevedel, whose seat in the state Senate I ultimately took. He created it. He then became the first BOCES director here in Sweetwater County. I'm the third. So in all those years, we've only had 3 directors. I've been there since 2004. BOCES are all autonomous, meaning that Sweetwater County BOCES does not look like Sublette County BOCES, does not look like Uintah County BOCES. They all have their own different sets of goals and objectives that they feel meet the community needs best. And that's where your advocacy is really, really important, because there are some BOCES throughout the state that do not take advantage of the funding available to them in terms of arts and arts education. We're funded differently, and this makes it so critical in terms of as schools are experiencing so much shutdown and shutdown of programs because of decreased funding. And we know, and it's broken my heart over the years as I've watched schools tighten their belts. They've eliminated fine and performing arts. They've eliminated music. They've eliminated the extracurricular things that we all know are so critically important. But BOCES is not funded that way. BOCES is funded with property taxes. So a BOCES is formed when you have to have two partners, and there can be either school districts or community college districts. For example, Sweetwater BOCES has two school districts, Rock Springs, Green River, and then we have Western Wyoming Community College, which I might add is quite a good community college also, but just putting that out there. So at any rate, all three of those BOCES get together and they can levy up to 1/2 mil additional property taxes that then does not come to them, but comes to us. And our job as a BOCES is to leverage that money so we get the biggest bang for our buck, because we're leveraging the money. And every year when I do my report to the shareholders, which is the entire community, I can show that for every dollar we get, we give back to the community almost $4. So the money does get leveraged very well. Both Rock Springs and Green River levy the full 1/2 mil, but what the college has chosen to do is use their money to create the Sweetwater scholarships, meaning that if you graduate from one of the high schools in Sweetwater County and you choose to go to Western Wyoming, you get a free ride. You access all of your other funding opportunities first, and then the BOCES scholarship kicks in and you get to go. And that's critical. But kind of just wrapping up quickly, because I don't want to take a bunch of time now, but BOCES is really important to be an advocate there. Because, for example, because I said our goals are underserved communities and underserved programs, it's always the arts. It's always the music. It's always those are the ones that are being cut from the school districts. If you're going to learn to play a stringed instrument in Sweetwater County, you're going to learn it through a BOCES program. We provide our own summer theater for youth. We provide our own theater programs, dance programs. I could take the rest of the time telling you all the fine and performing arts opportunities, all the humanities programs, all the lecture series, all the partnerships, all the art exhibits. The list is endless. But all the BOCES have that capability. And we operate on a granting system, meaning that anybody in Sweetwater County can come to our board with a grant proposal and say, this is what we want to do. For example, I'm real proud of this one, and I'll just say it real quick and then I'll shut up because I want to hear from the others. But we have one community theater in Sweetwater County, Actors Mission. We just had 5 or 6 young, bright people graduate from Western's program, and they said, that theater doesn't speak to us. We want to start our own. So they came to BOCES and they said, can we have $2,000? If you'll give us $2,000, we can start another theater in Rock Springs. And I, of course, am of the opinion you can't ever have too much theater. So for $2,000, we have a new theater program. And it was them coming to BOCES. So don't ever forget us. We're the absolute, we are the hidden gem, and we try to stay real quiet and real hidden because that's where a lot of those extra funds and a lot of the enrichment opportunities for your schools and for your communities can come from accessing BOCES and advocating for the arts to a BOCES. And with that, I'm going to be quiet.
Wonderful, Bernadine. Thank you so much. And I had known but forgotten that Sweetwater is distinguished as the first BOCES in the state. But certainly across the state, we see very similar effects and very similar positive impacts in the counties that have them.
Right.
So,
Right.
well, Brian, I think we'll kick it over to you to talk a little bit about city council and engagement there.
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. So I am a representative of Laramie's first ward. Our wards, our council in total is 9 members. Each ward has three members, about 11,000 constituents or so in each ward. As far as engaging with the arts from a council perspective, like Natalia said earlier, I think it really matters to have artists as elected officials. Because these conversations there's opportunity for the arts to plug into a wide variety, sort of nearly every issue when it comes to capital construction or that sort of thing. Those are great opportunities for the arts to be a component. But if there's not somebody there sort of constantly saying, we should include public art in this conversation, it just doesn't happen, right? So you may get the 1% from the arts from a state-funded project or something of that sort, but in your local stuff, you maybe don't. The voters of Albany County have been generous with their adoption of specific purpose taxes and allowing us to use a portion of those for what we call community partner funds. And they generally support nonprofits. But in the last 4 years or so, it's really been taken more seriously by arts organizations locally. And we're seeing more and more applications from our community theater, our public art coalition, and other groups of that sort. So they're able to get funds directly from the city and county governments to fund those sort of things. And then, I think in the very broad sense of this conversation, I think maybe the most important part of it, engaging with your city council members around the arts, is to ensure that you have some sort of coalition built each time. So it's not just one person sort of knocking on the door or picking up the phone. I find that it's been most effective to really demonstrate how many people in your community believe in the arts. And it's sort of a critical mass situation, right? So in Laramie in 2011, we started the Laramie Mural Project, which was really just like a scrappy shoestring budget type operation where a group of artists just got together and offered their services for like far less than their worth. And those artists were painting downtown walls that were otherwise sort of big gray or white crumbly looking things. So it added a vibrancy to our community that I don't think you can really directly quantify the economic benefit of that. But you could easily see that now Laramie has a very vibrant, very dynamic downtown. It really is the sort of heart of our economic community. And so I think having those things that demonstrate the power of the arts, it creates space for sort of moving that a little bit further each time. So then when you want to put in sort of a more forward-thinking sculpture or something of that sort, you can reference back and say, but you love the murals, right? And people say, well, yeah, I do. So I guess I kind of understand it. And so that's created a lot of opportunity in Laramie, just putting our minds to projects, finishing them, and then using those as examples.
Thank you, Brian. It's great to hear how City Council has gotten involved in your area to support some of those arts-based projects. And we'll come back to maybe ask a little bit more in depth how some of those how we went through the steps of that as well. But wanted to turn it over to Natalia, Commissioner Macker, to talk about engagement at the county level.
Thank you. Public engagement with elected officials can take a lot of different forms. I think most counties and likely most cities have email addresses where you can send in public comment via email that's written. You can join us at a meeting and make public comment at the top of a meeting on any issue, whether it's on the agenda or not. But certainly, as Brian mentioned, if there is something on the agenda that you are in favor of or not in favor of, or have thoughts about, commenting directly to it and ensuring others are doing the same, that for whatever reason, the more voices, even if they're saying similar things, can make a difference in a meeting. I know it sometimes feels futile, and we often hear, oh, the decision's already been made, like what's the point of doing this? The decisions are not made until the vote is taken. And I have seen all sorts of issues be made better because we received public comment that brought new information and we were able to incorporate it or ask questions or gain clarity, because government and our projects are your projects, and it's your government. And so it can be scary sometimes. I know our commission meetings are very formal. I think we probably have one of the most formal county meeting structures around the state. And so it can feel intimidating because there is a microphone, it is being broadcast online, but practice makes it easier. And so coming and making comment and doing it, prepare your comments in advance. It's okay to write them down. It's okay to read them. If you are going to be with a group of people that are commenting, I've seen a lot of successful groups kind of coordinate between folks so they aren't all saying exactly the same thing, but that we're highlighting different points, and sharing why the project or the effort is personal and important for you and what your perspective is. You know, I believe very much that our elected bodies are better when we have more diverse experiences at the table. Many of our elected boards and bodies are not very diverse. And so we really rely on getting diverse voices in our public comment to try to help get us to the best possible decisions because we may not have considered something. I also don't want to underestimate the power of presenting data. An elected official who might be an advocate for your project or your program, they're not the expert, and their plate is very full. And so if you can equip a person on the board who is an ally of your effort with good data and some stories, and then also share that in public comment, they have that information and they can reshare it from their microphone. And also talk to their colleagues about it, but they don't have time to find it themselves. And so anything that can make and I think this is particularly true for arts because it's easy for folks to say it's the extra or it's the fluff or we don't understand it or creative people are so difficult or whatever all of those stereotypes are, that when you can make it tangible and put numbers, put faces, people's lives, number of kids in a program, feedback from parents, all of those things give elected officials the added fuel that they need to be a strong advocate for your program or project when it's coming up. I also think we really need to infiltrate the government with more artists. And I mean that like across the board. So all of your counties and cities have volunteer boards that you can apply for and usually be appointed to. And it may be like, oh, I should apply for the arts board. Do not apply for the arts board. Apply for the not arts board. Like apply for, you know, we have a board here called Energy Conservation Works. It's about energy and sustainability. Well, they do a lot of capital projects. Apply for that board. Apply, you know, we've had a transportation group related to a road that we made a position specifically for an artist. Like apply for and get on that one. The first state board that I was appointed to by the governor's office, I applied for 3 boards after I lost my election. One was a child care board, which we're not talking about today, but child care, y'all, Wyoming child care. Number 2 was one of the arts related boards. And the third was the land quality division for the DEQ. I got on the DEQ board. Now, was that a board that I felt like as a person with a creative background? No. Am I able to serve and execute the function of the board? Absolutely. We need smart, creative, problem-solving people working in all areas of government and doing that. So there is an opportunity to actually use your skills and talents to shape what's happening in government. And being on boards like that can help you understand how government works kind of from an agency side, and how projects, like what a project looks like from, oh, we've discovered, that the bridge is going out and now we need a new bridge. Like from that moment of we have to do this thing to the ribbon cutting on the bridge, a lot of stuff happens in between. And you get the chance to see what that is. On the DEQ board that I'm on, we are part of reviewing the rulemaking for, say, coal mine reclamation. And so I've learned a lot about how that works and understand how the state goes through its rulemaking, how they engage with legislators, and you can gain skills and comfort in that by doing that. And we need people to serve in Wyoming. Many of our boards are not full and have open spots. So locally or at the state level, please apply for boards and get actively engaged in your government. The other area when we talk about arts and interacting with local and state government that I think we are getting better at doing, but still need to keep doing, is placing ourselves in the middle of that economic engine. And in whether that's physical infrastructure, programming, creating a place that people want to live with their families and want to work in, what attracts businesses to our state in terms of making vibrant communities, and that's not extra, that is like the center and core of how we can advance our economy and move forward and retain the people and the families that we need to be a thriving state. And so I think don't be afraid of talking about the economy because you're a creative person. It's something that I had to really get over and get comfortable with. I could break down a play for you. I could direct some children for you. I could do many things, was not comfortable talking about the economy and had to get there because it's absolutely vital. And it's language that folks you're speaking to also are using. And so sometimes we have to speak their language to get them on board with us. I have so much to say, but I'm going to stop.
That was fantastic. Thank you. And, we often think about social media, which is always in our pocket, right? Like we have these devices, and then we have email and text, and of course, showing up at meetings. But go ahead.
Sorry, you made me think of one more thing when you held up your phone, which is don't be afraid to ask a particular elected official how they like to be communicated with, because we have a lot of generational differences in our elected officials across bodies and just a lot of different fluency with different types of media. There are also places in our state where you don't get cell phone service. And so I'm very comfortable with texting. That's my preferred method. And I'm very public about that with people, that it is much better for me if you text me. If you do call me, please, for the love, leave a voicemail so that I know like what it's about and can call you back with the information. But I think don't be shy about that, because sometimes sending an email is getting lost in the sea of hundreds of other emails. But if you have a relationship with an elected official, know how they like to be communicated with, and then don't be afraid to use that and respect those requests. Like if they're on parental leave and don't want to be communicated with, don't communicate with them during that time period. But ask them that, and ask them, if you have an ally, you can ask them, should I talk to someone else on your board? Or is there someone that you think is probably like, will have the most questions so that I could reach out to them in advance? And anyone that you have a relationship with, use that to get information, because it's just, we're all just people. And all of this is just people communicating with other people, and doing that and getting advice on that from someone. It took me a long time to understand how my colleagues liked to communicate, and I communicate with my colleagues in the way that I know is best for them, because that's more likely to get me to the outcome that I'm seeking.
All right. Well, that is a great segue to the last round of this round robin. Tom, you were a candidate in the primary that just concluded on Tuesday, which is an interesting connection to Natalia's story. So we expect great things for you to come next, but you've also been having some really interesting topics come before you as a school board trustee. And I'm sure, as we were just talking about, you've had your inbox flooded, you've had all kinds of communication coming your way. So we'll turn it over to you for your thoughts on school board trustee engagement.
Well, perfect. Well, before I get too much into that, I actually do want to do a plug-in for BOCES, because with Natrona County, how our BOCES works is it's a board, and I'm actually on that board, so I understand a lot about what's going on, what our purposes are. So half of the college trustees and half of the Natrona County School Board trustees get together. We form a board with our director, and basically our goal is to anything that is going to help Natrona County students, whether it's in college or in high school, that's what we're focused on. So more than half of our budget is focused on dual and concurrent enrollment. So if you're a high school student, you can get college credit. And for example, 2 years ago, there was a 17-year-old that before he graduated high school, he was earning his associate's degree, which is absolutely wonderful. It's like you can be taking college level courses in high school and it's all free because it's paid for through BOCES. And then the other part of that is, yeah, we do have some grants that come in. There are some every year kind of perennial type grants that we're giving, but some of them, not all necessarily, are focused on the arts. Like I know, for example, there was times where we were giving money for more STEM related or career technical grants that we were focused on, but either way, it was still focused on helping our Natrona County students. Like now going back to engagement. So if you haven't noticed or haven't heard, I mean, especially within the last 2 years, school board meetings have been a really hot topic. A lot I've sat through many meetings where I've been yelled at, I've been called, Satan worshiper or whatever kind of things going on because of not necessarily things that I've even done, but that came through the state or whatever might happen. I can tell you now that's not the best way to engage with your local leader is by calling them a Satan worshiper. I mean, just, from my viewpoint. But I still do appreciate the fact that people are concerned. They want to know. It's like, yeah, that's great. I see people here. Like that's the only way me as a trustee is going to see or need to make corrections is if people are going to come up and say, hey, this is what's going on in the classroom. Why is this happening? And then, one, I can learn about it and say, okay, this is why it's happening. Or, oh, that is weird. Why is that happening? Hey, let's change that. Let's make it better. Because, we're 9 trustees that, we're not perfect. So we're trying to make it as best as we can for students. But we need the public input for that. But another big thing is, so people love coming to our main work sessions and, during our public comment period. But as Natalia said, well, that's not necessarily where all the work is done. Yeah, we're going to vote and not necessarily your comment could persuade a vote, however it might be, or it could change. It's like, oh, hey, we'll table that because we need to work on it more. But where all the work is getting done is within committees. So right now I serve on the board infrastructure committee, the BOCES committee, the budget committee, and the board academic steering committee. All of those committees are open to the public. If you want to know what is going on with our social studies that we're going to be implementing, go to the board academic steering committee and understand, okay, hey, this is the process that we go through every few years to improve and be aligned to the state standards. Or if you want to know how we're using our maintenance budget for schools, go to the board infrastructure meeting. Or maybe you're saying, hey, something on the school isn't quite right. Maybe it's really bad, you need it updated. Go to the board infrastructure meeting. So it's all about those committees and understanding, hey, this is where the bulk of the work is happening. Go there, because then that's what's going to influence what actually goes to the public meeting. And then you're like, oh, hey, I know already what's going on.
Thank you, Tom. So yes, preparation seems to be a theme all the way around here. And we've got about 10 minutes left in the time we plan to spend together. So I just wanted to throw out, there are a couple of folks who have been chatting with me, who have some topics to bring up. But I wondered if any of you all wanted to speak to, in terms of preparation, thinking about engaging with leaders as building a relationship, and how many folks you have who show up in your world asking for something versus offering something, and whether you see sort of a difference in that first introduction and that relationship building component. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I might kind of jump in there. Since I'm used to jumping in
Please.
first on all of this, I guess I'll jump in. But that's a really good point, and it kind of builds a lot on what Natalia was saying in terms of how you communicate with people, how you approach them, how you do all of that. And of course, BOCES, again, because we operate so primarily on a granting kind of basis, and we do the dual and concurrent also. And I can't tell you how happy my heart was to hear that so many people take such good advantage of that throughout the state, because it's not unusual at all to graduate from high school with your associate's degree also. So that's exciting. It's exciting to, I'm happy that Kelby shared that, you know, it's possible to have all of those programs. And so that's great, but we also have actually about $1 million a year that we give out in grants. And so it's all about writing those grants and communicating to us and contacting us. And I keep remembering, I was relating to it when Natalia was talking, when I was in the legislature, but it's still true. I right now, at this exact moment in time, have 1,800 emails on my email account. And I'm not going to get to all 1,800 of those emails. I will if you text me. I probably won't if you call me, unless you leave me a voice, all those kinds of things. But kind of my biggest pet peeve, both there and at BOCES, is when you grab me 2 minutes before the meeting starts. I can remember being down on the Senate floor and being pulled out by some, you know, just really excited constituent, usually with something that was important, but they'd give it to me the second before I have to go in and talk and present that. That's not helpful. And it's not helpful for me at BOCES either, when somebody brings this great grant to the board meeting. That doesn't work. We have to have it in advance. And so now we've actually set a time frame where we have to have it 3 weeks in advance, so we can share it with our board members, so I can look at it and say, ooh, you're not going to get money for this, but if you rewrite it and say X, Y, or Z, you might get some money. So I think that contacting, I really want to underscore all the points that she made. And it's very, very critical to make that contact. The grants that are successful at BOCES, and most of them are. Most of them receive some level of funding simply because we really are. I'm proud of Sweetwater BOCES. We have 11% administrative costs. That means 89% of our budget is plowed right straight back in to Sweetwater County. So there's money to be had there. And I think that's the case in most of the counties around the state. But it's really important to get a hold of me first. You know, don't give me a blind grant request, because then I don't know what it is. And I haven't had a chance to ask questions or get you to flesh it out for me and give me the important information if I'm going to sell that grant request at our board meeting. So those are just a few little comments off the top of my head. I'd love to hear what the others on the panel have to say, and then we can maybe talk about that a little more.
Andrew, I would add to your question one thing quickly. I think one of the big differences that I notice in constituents is and I think it adds to their effectiveness when someone reaches out and it's clear that they're willing to work on the problem alongside, you know, I will always lend a hand. When somebody's willing to sort of take the lead on something, build the coalition, do the work, that is always more productive. All local folks in Wyoming know how tight cash is most of the time. So it is going to be scrappiness that wins every time. So if somebody shows up and they're willing to join a board or commission to get them and their neighbors together to sort out a problem, I'm going to stand right alongside them and help and make sure that it goes through council smoothly. But that extra effort, there's no magic curtain that if you can just look behind it, everything's perfect. The successes you see in your community are because people put their sweat into it. They really figured out how to build a team and really get after it. So I would just add that as well, that if you want to see progress, it takes work.
I will echo very much of that. Do not point out problems without offering an idea or a possible path forward. You might not have the answer, but just complaining doesn't help it move forward, because then we're left to find on our own what a path forward might be in an area that might not be our area. So if you can offer a solution or a path forward, I think that's very helpful. And I think also looking for unlikely partners or allies. So again, like, this is not just arts organizations coming and asking for this. This is arts organizations and the restaurant group or the Chamber of Commerce and the arts organizations that we have organized ourselves in advance and that we're allied across multiple sectors. I think helps arts organizations, and in the long run, gains like long-term partners and integrates and gets other businesses thinking about how arts in their community are important for their business and economic growth.
Good points, Tom. Do you want to jump on that? If not, I think we maybe have time for one more question.
I think I'll pass on this one.
Okay, great. So just in the last couple minutes that we have here, I wanted to give a shout out to Kelby, our intern, who has been doing a great job this summer and will be going back to Natrona County High School here in Casper to finish up his senior year there, even though he is already taking advantage of BOCES to get some college credits ahead of time. But just in the last minute, I wanted to end on a youth engagement question here. And just really one sentence from each of you is unfortunately all the time we have here. But do you encourage folks who are under the legal voting age to get involved in engaging local leaders? And Tom, we'll start with you since you're directly in that space.
Well, I mean, a lot of the decisions we're making now are going to be directly impacting those that are not a voting age yet. So why would I not encourage them to? And I know especially this generation has been the most vocal and the most, I guess, engaged with politics and making sure, hey, this is going to have a huge impact on me. I want to make sure this is what's going to help me the best way I can.
And we're going backwards here. So Natalia.
Yes, there is no voice more powerful than the voice of the next generation, because they are going to inherit all of the problems we're making right now, just like we have inherited our predecessors. And so your voice is vital and often drowns out many other voices because of that.
Brian, one sentence.
Sure, Andrew. Yeah, absolutely. I think, in a very general sense, diverse boards make better decisions.
Bernadine, the last word, back to you.
Yay. And that's fun to be last, because I can just say, yeah, what they said, and yeah, what they said. But virtually every board that I have anything to do with has a youth member on it. Virtually all of them. And because that's how critical we think that youth voice is. There's nothing that's more upsetting to me than a bunch of old people sitting around talking about what's going to be good for young people. We need to hear from them. And we really want to encourage you, Kelby, and everyone else who is non-voting age, but still, this is going to be your world, and we welcome your input. We have to have your input. We won't survive without it.
Well, thank you all to our panelists for joining us today. I couldn't think of a better word to end on. Thank you for those of us who joined us, and please share this through our Facebook channel and as well at wyomingarts.org for anyone who couldn't make it today. And now, if you're joining us for the rest of today's Interim Advocacy Day, we will be switching over to a new Zoom link, which I just put in the chat there. So really looking forward to having Aaron Taylor catching us up on what just happened in the primary. And you can find that information as well through our Facebook page, our LinkedIn, or our Instagram. So appreciate you all for being here, and we will see you on the next session.
Thank you.